give each book I've read so far yes, no, maybe, my rating, and then if I have like anything little to talk about the book. I'm gonna keep it on the quicker side talking about each book because I do have so many books to go over. The books I don't physically have, I read on Libby. I love Libby. It is so easy to read on Libby. The only downside is you do have to wait for books. I'm not holding up the physical book. I read it on Libby on my phone. The first book I read this year was Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. I would give this one an absolute yes. I gave it 4 stars, and although I wouldn't want to live in this world, it was really fun to read about. Next, I read Wildfire by Hannah Grace. This is the second book in the Icebreaker series. I would give this one also a yes, but it is spicy. I gave it 4.25 stars. I loved it so much more than the first book. I am so excited for Henry's book, which comes out end of August, I want to say. God, there's a bee. Speaking of Magnolia and BJ, I also read Daisy Hates by Jessa Hastings, which is the second book in the Magnolia Parks universe. I definitely was expecting a little bit more from this book, but I still really enjoyed it. I gave it a 3.75 stars. Definitely would recommend it and the series as a whole. I, out of this one, just wanted a little bit more from the story. Next book is My Life with the Walter Boys by Ali Novak. I gave this book a no. I have it as a 2-star read. I watched the show and then I read the book. I think you can just watch the show. Moving on, I've read all 5 of the Heartstopper books. I have not rated these because I don't really know how to rate a graphic novel, but these get a yes, 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 yes for all 5 volumes. Next up, I read The Woman in Me by Britney Spears. This is another one I didn't rate because I'm not gonna rate someone else's life story, but I would definitely give this a read if you're interested in her and her story and what happened to her, because I really enjoyed the book and I thought it was really interesting. Again, I'm just not gonna rate someone's life. Surprise, surprise. I read Magnolia Parks The Long Way Home, also by Jessa Hastings. This is the book after Daisy Hates' 3rd book in the Magnolia Parks universe. Absolutely read this. I gave it a 4 stars. BJ, Magnolia, hate them, love them. I love them. And that's all I'm gonna say. The next book I read was The Deal by Elle Kennedy. I gave it a 3.5 stars. It was a really good book for what it is. I read it pretty fast. I tend to read more books where I don't have to put a lot of thought into, like, say, world building, as in like fantasy books, during my semesters at school, just so I can like use reading as a time to kind of like decompress. This series, which I'm going to talk about more of the books later on, I think it's really good for that. It was just a fun read. Like, who doesn't love reading about hockey players? Next, we have Daisy Hates the Great Undoing. This is the 4th book in the Magnolia Parks universe, and I loved this book. Julian Hates is all I'm gonna say about this book. I gave it 4.25 stars, and just to get to this book alone, I think the series is worth it. I have the other book, Magnolia Parks Into the Dark, still, but I'm scared to read it because I know it's just gonna destroy me and I'm not ready for that. Next up, I read Bride by Ali Hazelwood. This book was interesting. It was good. It was just very different from what I normally read. I'd give it a yes on a yes, no, maybe scale, but I am forever scarred by the word not, and I'm gonna leave it at that. The next book, I know I have it somewhere in my house. I think my mom was just reading it, so it's probably still in her room, but was Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. If you have not read this book, please read it. This is my favorite Abby Jimenez book that I've read so far. It is amazing, and it was my first 5-star read of 2024. The next book I read was Happy Place by Emily Henry. This is an absolute yes from me. I gave this a 4.5 stars, and it is definitely my favorite Emily Henry book that I've read so far, and I am so excited to read Funny Story. After Happy Place, I read Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. Now, I did read these out of order. Technically, you're not supposed to, but it's an interconnected standalone series. So Part of Your World comes first, but I actually read it after Yours Truly. I liked this book. It was very entertaining, and I would 100% recommend it, but it did not beat Yours Truly. I gave Part of Your World a 3.75. It was cute, but it wasn't Yours Truly. Up next, I read Done and Dusted by Lila Sage. I would give this book a maybe. I liked the story. I just hated and could not get behind what Logan would say about Emmy. I ended up giving it 3 stars. I really enjoyed the story. Again, I really liked the family aspect of it. This word just, it bumped it down for me, and I like respecting women. Let's respect women. Next, I read Nora Goes Off Script by Annagail Monaghan. I actually really liked this book. I gave Nora Goes Off Script 4 stars. I did find it a little bit challenging to get into, but I would definitely recommend it and give it a yes. Then I read Betting on You by Lynn Painter. I'm giving this one a maybe / yeah. It was a good book, but I got major deja vu reading it. I don't really know what book it reminded me of. It just felt very similar to another book I've read before, but I couldn't place it. Not bad, not amazing. 3 stars. Next, I read The Mistake by Elle Kennedy. This is the second book, I believe, in the off-campus series. I feel the same way as I did the first one. It's good for when I'm really busy. I kind of wish I got a little bit more, but also in this book we focus on John Logan, and he's just not my favorite out of the friend group. Next, I read The Love Wager by Lynn Painter. I loved Better Than the Movies. Her other books are kind of falling flat for me. I will say I read this again on Libby. I ran out of time maybe a month later to finish it. I think if I had it and read it in one sitting without that chunk in between, I would have liked it more. It was good. It was cute. I don't really remember much of it. Next, I read Tom Lake by Anne Patchett. This one get absolutely yes. Please read this. I give this a 4 stars. I loved it. It was so different, but in such a good way. I will say every time I eat sea cherries, I think of this book. After Tom Lake, I read The Score by Elle Kennedy. This is Dean's book from the off-campus series. This is definitely my favorite book of the series that I've read. I've not completed the series. Dean was so entertaining. Definitely would say this is a yes. I gave it a 4 stars. The next book I've read is Shatter Me. I've always heard about the Shatter Me series, and I saw it on Libby and I was like, I'll try it. I gave it 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it. I can see the potential of this being one of my new favorite series. I finished this book so excited to start the second one. After Shatter Me, there is a novella in between the first one and the second one, and it's called Destroy Me. I gave this also a yes. This has a 4 stars from me. I'm just gonna say yes, and I knew it, and yes. The next book I read, which my mom is currently reading, so I don't have it on me right now, but is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. This is in the same standalone interconnected series as Yours Truly and Part of Your World. I love this book. I still think Yours Truly is above it. Everyone needs to read it. It is such a good summer read that has more than just lighthearted romance. I'm gonna try and get through this fast. I only have a few more books left before my camera battery dies. Next, I had Swift and Saddled by Lila Sage, which is the second book after Done and Dusted. I'd give this book yes, absolutely. It was so fun to read. I gave it 4 stars. Up next, I had Unravel Me, which is the second book in the Shatter Me series. I'm not gonna say too much about this other than yes, 4 stars. I loved it. Alright, next up I had The Goal, which is off-campus series, the 4th book. I give this one a maybe. The trope in it I just didn't really like. Next up I read Fracture Me, which is the novella after Unravel Me in the Shatter Me series. I kind of felt like this book was pointless, but I understand why it was written, and I'm gonna leave it at that. Then I read Ready or Not by Cara Bastone. I gave this book 3.5 stars. The trope is just not, it's just not my favorite. And the last book that I read is Summer Romance by Abigail Monaghan. I think I'm saying her name right. Absolutely read this. It was so good. I gave it a 4 stars. I really liked it. The only thing that kind of threw me in this book was the skateboarding aspect. I felt like just didn't really fit in with the book, and I understand what the author was trying to do with it and the metaphor or whatnot that was trying to take place. That part just kind of fell flat for me, but I still loved the book. That is all of the books I've read so far in 2024. I hope you enjoyed. I will link my Goodreads down below where I can go sometimes into more in-depth reviews of books. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye besties!